banking ahead. Konechny tips it. He got it past the defenseman and gets to the puck. Konechny cutting it and goal. He scores! A beauty from Konechny, and the Flyers take a 1-0 lead. Beat the defenseman, then beat the goaltender. And Konechny's third goal in the last 2 games has the Flyers on top.
Hey everybody, it's Isaiah, and I'm here with Chef B, who's going to tell us about one of our sponsors here. Chef?
Yeah, O&B Puckcast is now brought to you by Summit Public Adjusters. The winter months can be especially hard on our homes, from roof damage and peeling siding to frozen pipes and toilet overflows. Call Summit Public Adjusters before you call your insurance company. Dealing with your insurance company can be stressful and confusing. Let Summit Public Adjusters take the stress out of the claim process by having our guys work for you. Get the most for your money and your repairs. The next time the big snow or the rain leaves you with some home damage, contact us for a free consultation. Summit Public Adjusters are licensed in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Learn more at summitpublicadjusters.com or call 215-752-0560. Just tell them that the chef sent you.
Yeah, what was that number again, Chef?
215-752-0560.
That's terrific. All right, we're going to carry on with the rest of our show. Hey, everybody, it's Isaiah, just reminding you about Jim's South Street, 400 South Street in Philadelphia, PA. They're back. That's right. After the fire, they've returned, and now you have in the 40-year tradition of Philly cheesesteaks, Jim's South Street down on 400 South Street in Philly. If you're down there, check it out. The finest cheesesteaks, hoagies, and fries in the grandest Philadelphia tradition. You know you want one. And if you're down there, if you live down there, of course, you can use Grubhub or DoorDash, whatever it takes. Jim South Street, 400 South Street in Philadelphia. They're back. Get one soon. And we are back. It is Isaiah. Welcome to the O&B Puckcast, episode number 256, brought to you by FlyersNittyGritty.com and Jim South Street. So the Philadelphia Flyers, since Brad Shaw took over for the dismissed John Tortorella, are now on a 3-game win streak after losing 11 of their prior 12 games. The team obviously is revitalized, and no one more so than Matvei Michkov, who extended his point streak to 6 games, including 2 helpers last night versus the Nashville Predators. It's 4 goals and 7 helpers. So he ranks second on the team in assists with 34, also ranks second in points with 58 among all NHL rookies. He's closing strong. We have our fingers crossed. The Flyers actually scored a few power plays as well after going through a period of 0 for 31 on the man advantage through most of March. The team is currently 7th in the draft order, pending the remaining 6 games and, of course, the upcoming draft lottery. And that's more or less a capsule summary of where we're at since our last show, which was our emergency pod after John Tortorella was fired. Let's bring in Chef B. What's your opening thoughts for tonight, my friend?
Well, as much things change, it's towards the end of the year. I'm sure everybody's got their opinion about the firing of Torts, and it seems to be in the camp where they always blame the coach, or I'm glad he's gone kind of crowd. So it'll be nice to kind of dispel some of those myths that I think if you look at the facts to everything, you'll see it was kind of like, it was split down the middle. It's a little bit of everything, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. The great Dan Silver should be joining us, hopefully, tonight we hope that he'll make it. But of course, our special guest tonight is the NHL Flyers radio host. He's also, of course, on one of our favorite podcasts, the Flyers Daily Podcast. And we're pleased to have back Jason Myrtetus. Jason, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, geez, all of a sudden the offseason got a lot more intriguing. You got a head coach search. You got money in the till to spend on some free agents. We heard Fried say on 32 Thoughts that he's hearing Danny Briere might be the guy to lead the RFA offer sheet charge. I mean, there is a ton, which I am all for, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Get it. If that's a tool at your disposal, pull the tool if you find a way to do it. So they have all their draft picks to do those things. So there's a ton of angles of conversation. I mean, coaching change, and I've made it really clear how I feel about Torts as a man and as a coach. So you certainly discuss that as well. I was shocked to see that he was let go when he was let go. I did not think he'd be back next year, but it was still shocking to see how it played out. And obviously there's a lot of speculation going on right now about why it happened, when it happened. I think one thing that fans need to realize is that we see the finish action a lot of times of the firing, and we want to pin it to one thing. Or you see a player get benched and want to say he messed up on that one play and he has to sit 2 periods for that. It's not that. It's an accumulation. You just don't see the accountability being doled out prior to the punishment being doled out sometimes. And I think that's the case with the situation with the firing of Torts. I think it was the situation with the benching of Cam York as well, based on some conversations that I've had with people.
Well, and also, real quick, thinking that, you said he wasn't going to, you didn't think it would be with the, as a coach next year. I didn't either. I was thinking leaning that way too, but at least I thought he would graduate up to like some position in upper management. I guess more so than that, I mean, they kind of stressed that when they said that, he's not going to be taking any other positions with the team. So
I don't think he was really ever interested in that, to be honest with you.
Really?
I really don't. Yeah. My conversations with Torts, both, on the air and off the air, he's a coach. He's not one of those guys that's, scouting and building. That's not what he's a coach. He's a coach through and through. I don't think he had any desires to move into a front office role. I thought if anything, it would have been just an advisory type role.
Yeah, that's what I expect.
Which is, hang out and, you did good work for the organization, getting us back on our DNA path of having a standard of excellence on and off the ice. But no, I never thought that he was ticketed to be a front office guy. A lot of coaches graduate to that, and I don't think they're really good at it.
Yeah.
You mean like Barry Trotz?
Yeah, you're serving a different master. It's a totally different mindset, and you nailed it. Barry Trotz is one of the greatest coaches of his generation, frankly. And what he did this offseason, I know some people lauded it. I did not. It didn't make a lick of sense to me to just get older, more expensive. What he did with drafting a Scaroff in the first round and then extending Saros to huge, it didn't make any sense to me. It was kind of like he was serving the master of a coach, not of a general manager in a grand vision. So I don't think Torts was ever ticketed for upstairs. Not his style.
Yeah, we were talking about that last show, and we had the emergency pod. I think a lot of that mindset came out when Doug McLean said on a podcast that Torts had discussed a front office role after his coaching days with Columbus. And I guess people kind of melded that. Plus, with
I think Doug talks out of his asshole a lot of times.
Yeah, well, you said it, man.
He's a good guy, but
he's a good guy. But he does talk shit. There's no doubt about it. So I think that was part of it. Plus, the way we were presented with the so-called triumvirate of Torts, Danny, and Jonesy as like this brain trust for making the major decisions of personnel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do think he was involved in that.
And
I think there was that triumvirate there where he did have a seat at that table, and not a lot of coaches do. Some veteran coaches with stature do get a seat at that table often. But, I think he got a seat at that table because of what they were intending to do, which I thought they laid out initially, and I think they followed it pretty damn close. It was about evaluating, figuring out who was going to be a part of things going forward and who wasn't. And it was about subtraction and backfilling. And you need the evaluation of the coach who's with the team in the locker room day to day for those things, because it wasn't just about rebuilding from a hockey standpoint on the ice, but it was also a cultural standpoint, because as we know, there was a problem with the locker room prior to Torts getting here. When Keith Yandel goes on Spit and Chicklets after the team went like 25, 50, and 11 and finished in dead last place, they sucked out loud in his year here. And he said it was one of the funnest years he had as a pro in the NHL.
I remember
I know.
Freaking problem. Like, you should not have been happy. You should have been fucking miserable. The fact that he's saying that publicly was alarming to me about how much fun he had his year in Philly. They sucked. They were horrible. That should not have been fun. That's a problem. The rink should not have been shouldn't have been shits and giggles at all. And the fact that he was saying that was a problem. That needed to be fixed first and foremost. That was the first thing Torts pointed out, and the first thing that he tackled.
Yeah. And in fact, you touched with that when you talked to, I do believe it was Flyers Daily. You were recounting your interview with Cam Atkinson.
Yeah.
And how he closed the door and said, "Oh, come on, mate, let's talk."
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, because Cam had spent 6 years with Torts in Columbus, and that's some really good and productive years. And we know Cam, a total pro, you know, a guy that not going to BS you. He's not. That's not the kind of guy that he is. That his character. And when we got done the interview, I asked him. I just said, "What do you think about Torts next year?" Here, and that's when he just got up, walked over, shut the door, came back, and sat down. I said, "All right, let's talk." and we talked about it, and he couldn't have given him a bigger endorsement. I mean, I think he flat out said to me, I'm paraphrasing, but it's exactly what we need on the ice and off the ice here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a cluster F. Yeah.
There's no doubt he was what the doctor ordered for this team.
Yeah.
Now, whether you get to that
there's debate on, a lot of people want to debate that too. Oh, nobody developed under him here. He wasn't the right guy for a rebuild. I think that's baloney too.
Look at the Cates line. Look at that line. Just one line.
The line. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole line. I mean,
Jamie Drysdale,
Drysdale's
they'll go
around this season.
The Torts haters will say, well, that's all Brad Shaw. They won't give Torts any credit for that. But part of a head coach's job is to oversee and to delegate, because you can't do it all, right? So you got to empower your assistants to teach and do those things. You can't do all of that at a micro level as a macro head coach. Yeah. And Brad Shaw's great. I mean, look what he did with Risto.
Yeah. No.
Torts talks about it, like from year 1 to year 2, the biggest improvement on the team was Risto. And he said, I went at it with Risto, and those two did. And they went back and forth. They went through that process. Some guys can go through that process in different ways. Obviously, Cam York and Risto probably went through it differently and from different headspaces, and they're different people, and totally understand that. And it makes sense. But I mean, you can't tell me guys didn't develop here. I mean, Konechny went to a different level. Sanheim went to a level he couldn't dream of. And he has said it. There's a lot, and there's some guys that improved and then slid. Owen Myrtetus slid this year, in my opinion.
A little bit. Yep.
And there are concerns I have about his game from a mental standpoint, because I think that's where it lies with him. But I think Torts was charged with doing certain things here, which I think he accomplished, which was cultural and a standard of play. And but I also think it was time to move forward with a guy that doesn't have the stain of the last 2 years of all that losing on him.
Yeah.
It's like Brett Brown was the guy that Briere brought in for the Sixers. His coaching record is going to ever reflect that he's one of the worst coaches ever in the game, but he never had any players.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they got players, they fired him. But he was there for that part. And then, I mean, it didn't work out for the Sixers. They haven't gotten past the second round. Yeah. But the theory remains.
Well, I will say this. From a national standpoint, like it seemed like every time the Flyers played Columbus, and it was a national game, it happened, I think, twice this season. And you heard the national broadcasters, they were talking about, it always came up about how Torts and developed players, Werenski always praised, they always quoted him, saying he took me under his wing, and he made me the player I am today. And I mean, that's a ringing endorsement. If one of the best D-men in the league is telling everybody that he can develop young players. I don't understand it.
Well, and you would have thought, like, the narrative on like veteran coaches, especially in guys that have a past like Torts, where it is so much about shot blocking and sacrificing in the D zone. And early in his career, it wasn't about offense because that was the hardest thing to control as a coach, where defense is something you can control as a coach and structure. And Werenski is a guy that plays positionless D. He joins the rush. And for Torts to let him, be free with non-negotiables in place. There's things that I will let you jump in the play, and I will let you join the rush, and I will let you be a dynamic offensive player from the blue line, provided you meet me halfway with these non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, because you would have thought early in his career, Werenski would have drove him bananas because of the lack of structure and where you're all over the place, playing 200 by 85 all night, every night. But Torts, I think, in his evolution as a coach, learned that I can't control every foot, every inch of this ice. I have to let these guys be able to be creative and do what they do. The game is different. And Werenski's a good example. I mean, you see guys all throughout his career. Dan Boyle's another one that he took to a next level in a big way, and did it by letting him explore his skills offensively, not defensively. But there's the narrative, he just wants people to block shots and defend. It's baloney. Year 1 to year 2, they were first in the NHL in transition off the rush scoring chances, and second in the NHL in off the rush scoring goals. Year 1, I think they had 4 off the rush transition scoring chances. They didn't have the personnel to run it, and they just constantly regrouped in the neutral zone ad nauseum and just played into the teeth of the other team's structure. And he realized can't do that in today's game. So he made that change. You don't see it now that they're playing in transition because they don't have the pieces to do it. But that they're going to build themselves in a way where you do play off the transition going forward. Yeah.
One last thing about Torts. He dragged the Flyers organization, kicking and screaming, like I said last week, into the mindset of like, we got to rebuild.
Yeah.
And the whole organization had been opposed to that for the longest time. And he's the guy that got started in December of 22, even while Fletcher was out there talking about, well, there were only 5 or 6 points out of the playoffs. So that's the other thing. And it's probably more significant than, in a lot of ways, than some of the other things people were talking about, because nobody's talking about, like, he was the catalyst for that.
Yeah. I mean, because he just flat out knew this team's not good enough to flirt around it. And what are you going to do? You're in no position to go for a run or anything like that. You're not going to capture lightning in a bottle. And I mean, that word rebuild, I mean, for years, if you would have said that in the Flyers offices, Mr. Snyder was like, you got fired. Yeah. I mean, that was not a Flyers mindset. We don't rebuild. But the league's different now. You're in a salary cap league, and you were in a flat cap league, and we're coming out of that now. The fact of the matter is this: is since Danny's been hired, people say, he hasn't done much. He needs to do more. Well, when he was hired, in basically after that last season that Fletcher was here in Torts' first year, of the 35 players that played a game, rostered players that season, 19 of them are gone. Now 20 via trade, free. Some they just didn't re-sign. Some they didn't tender offers to. Guys like Wade Allison or Felix Sandstrom, James Van Riemsdyk, they let, for a litany, and traded a ton of them. Big names they traded too. Provorov, who was thought to be the franchise cornerstone 28-minute-a-night defenseman. Hayes, huge free agent signing, had a good couple of years here. You look at some of these guys that they traded off, and, I said it on a podcast, said, sometimes it didn't feel like Danny was doing much, but he sure did a lot in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you look at the draft capital that he's gotten as a result of that, and weaponized money that they really didn't have a lot of to weaponize by taking on guys like Cal Peterson or Ryan Johansson. And you've turned these into first-round picks in real NHL capital and currency. So there's this notion that Danny, really hasn't done much. But if you look at the sheer numbers of what he's done in the transaction wire, there's quite a bit there. There's a lot of meat on that bone. There really is. And one of the things with Danny, I think a lot of players of his stature would have just relied on their reputation as a player to get to a GM chair. I remember trying to book him for an interview prior to him. I don't even know if he was an advisor in the front office at the time, but this is probably like 5 years ago at this point. And I texted him. I said, hey, I want to get you on, blah, blah. Can you do tomorrow at 3:00? He said, I can't do tomorrow at 3. I can do like 4:30. I'm in class until 4. I go, class? What do you mean class? Because I went back to school. I go, where are you going to school? He went to Penn's Wharton to learn the business because he didn't know it. He was a hockey player. He didn't go to college, and he went through the junior ranks, did the whole thing, and wanted to go back and learn that stuff. Not many players that made the kind of dough that he makes are going to go sit in a classroom with a bunch of college kids at Penn at 44 years old. It tells you a lot about how prepared he wanted to be for this opportunity when he got it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it begs the question at this point, as we look forward to the offseason, we're going to get into like some of the kids that they just signed, and maybe we'll touch back on some of the things about the roster that are going on right now. But there was some news from Elliot Friedman that one of the candidates rumored to be on the Flyers hot list, whether we know that he is or not, Rick Tocchet, not sure, would kind of make sense. I think he's in his last year of his deal.
He's got an option year.
He's got an option year. Okay. Yeah. So the Canucks seem determined to keep him, to retain him if at all possible.
Exercise the option. I think it's a club option, but you don't exercise an option unless the guy wants to stay.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
It's, and I heard, was it Craig Button today talking about how he said the Philadelphia fans would have a parade if Rick Tocchet came to the Flyers. I don't know about a parade. I mean,
there's a portion of the fan base that'd be pissed because he's a former Flyer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so what's your thought about just Toc himself? Well, what's your feeling?
I've known Toc a long time. He's a really smart hockey guy. He's obviously been in broadcasting, so he's a good communicator for the team to its fan base via the media and those kind of things, which I think is important in today's landscape. So he's good at that part. He's had middling success as a coach, some good years and some not so good years. You got to look at it and go, okay, what was he tasked with? Trotting out on the ice every night on a lot of those occasions, especially with Phoenix, which became Arizona. But I mean, you got to look at it. I don't know if he's the right guy. Is he the right guy to come after Torts? The notion in sport has always been you get the hard driving coach, and then you go to a player's coach, and then you go to a hard coach because it gets you go back and forth like a yo-yo. You go from Larry Boa to Charlie Manuel, right?
Right.
A guy who wants to beat your ass to a guy that'll pat you on it. Those kind of things, from a screamer to a hugger. I don't know. Is Toc the right guy to develop young talent and continue with that standard of play? I'd have to go through the whole process with him to hear his vision on it, and what he thinks of what the organizational plan is. I think there's a lot to it. Is he a candidate if he's available? Yeah, you absolutely talk to him. They talked to him before they hired Toc. He was part of that process. So, I mean, and obviously he loves Philadelphia. He understands the city, which I think is an important element too. You got to have some thick skin around here. And I think he understands that part. So I don't think he'd be overwhelmed by any of those things where I thought maybe Dave Haxtell was a little bit. So yeah, he'd be a guy I would, if he's available, I would absolutely talk to. But there's a lot of jumping to conclusions that, Flyer, the DNA and all that, and then it's just such a perfect fit. I need more information to determine what's a perfect fit and what's not a perfect fit. What's the organizational plan? How does that coach plan to be a part of it and execute it? Because you got to have all these things, all these ducks got to be in a row, or you ain't going to win in a 32 team salary cap league. You have 3 core responsibilities as an organization and a GM. You got to make the pieces fit on the ice, right? What we see when we watch games. You got to make those pieces fit not over 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years, but over about 7 or 8 years fiscally. When guys come up for restricted free agents, when unrestricted free agents become available, who's going to be aging out of your roster, who's going to be potentially coming in, what are those free agents? You got to look at that. And then you have the cultural part, is how do these pieces that fit on the ice now fit together monetarily? Do they fit together from a personality standpoint to do what you want to do and carry themselves as professionals the way you want? Those are 3 huge things that all have to come together to win a cup. If you miss one of those, you don't win a cup in today's league. I firmly believe that. So you got to nail all of them. There's no margin for error anymore. You can't just buy your way out of stuff.
Yeah, no, makes sense, Chef.
So let's go back 3 or 4 coaches here to Haxtell. and he was hired out as a college coach. Is there any chance that would happen again? We've heard the name David Carl pop up on a couple of times. You think that's a possibility, or do you think that they would stick with somebody who's got a proven track record still?
I think it would be more likely that they would get somebody that's got some head coaching experience to step in. That's my gut feeling on it. I don't know that for sure. I would talk to David Carl. The thing with David Carl is, college coaches are really comfortable when they're successful. They have job security. And as we know, coaching in pro sports, and in particular the NHL, which has got the shortest tenure of any head coaches in any sport, it's, having security is not an option. And it doesn't matter what you get paid. I mean, you could pay him $8 million a year. If it's not working, they're going to move on. And he's got a young family. He's a young guy. So I think that's part of that equation as well. He's done a great job collegiately, but collegiately is a lot different than the NHL. Yeah. It just is. You have the European influx, which is bigger in the NHL, and guys from all around the globe, the ego, those kind of things. And you also have, the fact that this is now a job for the players. It's not, they're not matriculating students. Even though, as we know, some of the guys that play college are taking basket weaving because they're there to play hockey. But that being said, he's a guy I would talk to. I'd like to hear his thoughts and investigate it and go down that road with him. Because even if he's not the right coach now, maybe he's the right coach some other time. And I don't know. Who are the other candidates that are out there that you got to look at? You can
Todd Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's an intriguing candidate. He's done a great job in Hershey. He's got NHL experience. And a lot of times coaches in pro sports benefit more in their second tenure as a head coach than they do their first. Just look at Bill Belichick, prime example, right?
Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. Like we come up with a great list of some Hall of Famers that, their first coaching job, they were the boob, and then they became, this great coach, this mastermind. I think they learn from some of the mistakes you make in the first thing and reflect on it and make sure they don't make it again. So who are the right guys? I'm not excluding anybody if they're a former Flyer, because I don't care. I just want the right guy. I don't care if he's from, I said this, I don't care if he's from Neptune.
Yeah.
I don't care if he played for the Dallas Cowboys. He's the right coach for the Flyers. Hire the right coach. Just get the decision
let's
right.
not get ridiculous here.
Yeah. You might want to avoid Uranus.
Yeah. Well, they're all assholes.
Yeah. So,
get the right guy, but this is a huge decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot on the line with this decision. It's the first really big ad decision for Briere because he didn't hire Torts.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the first big, stamp he's going to put down is this position. And let's not forget about the effect of Keith Jones in this role, because he knows everybody. He knows their situation. And when I say he knows their situation, he knows which coaches are kind of secure in their spot, but necessarily don't like their spot. He knows all of those things. This is where the intel of a guy like Keith Jones is very valuable.
Yeah, I always said that to other people because he just has so many relationships all through this league. He's a very well-liked guy to begin with. So people just want to tell him stuff, and he gets it. So to have him in this position, I think in this truly this is going to be their first year where I think they can really make that big difference, because they have cap space. Now they have, draft capital. They got a lot of draft capital they can play with if they want to. And of course, you had mentioned earlier the dreaded offer sheet. So there's a lot they can do.
They got the mindset too. They have the mindset to finally now move forward.
Exactly.
They haven't replaced those 19 players they lost since that last season when Chuck Fletcher was here, since Danny's been here. They have not upgraded or brought in equal or upgraded replacements for those players at all. They haven't. And Jacob Peltier is not an upgrade over Farabee and Frost. Nope. They have not brought in an upgrade piece from something they sent out in that time. So you're looking at a lot of roster attrition. But now the mindset is to move forward, to start adding equal and much more so greater pieces, more beneficial pieces to the pie to move it forward.
Yeah. And the thing that we were kind of speculating on Whereas, what kind of ads would they be? And for them to move forward, they're going to need some kind of professional center. They're not going to get the 1C, but if you propose a scenario where they get a chance to draft a kid who could be a 1 or perhaps possibly a 2C, maybe a Misa, maybe a Higgins or Frundell, whatever. That kid's not going to be ready for 2-3 years to be a lineup staple and be a regular contributor if everything goes right. You're going to need to bridge the gap with another center. And they're going to have to take a look at probably at some kind of trade or offer sheet. And I don't think there's that many available via offer sheet. So
There's a couple.
Yeah, I mean, McTavish I would want, but Anaheim's got so much cap space, it would be difficult to.
Yeah, you have to
get
really
him.
overpay in that situation. But look at a guy like Gabe Velarde.
Velarde. Can he play center?
Yeah, to be big body, can play center. I look at a team like Winnipeg that's good right now.
Mhm.
He's got like a social media influencer fiance, apparently. Does she want a social media influence in Winnipeg, Manitoba?
Yeah.
Or on the northeast corridor of the United States? You know what I mean? Happy wife, happy life, boys. You know that.
Oh, absolutely.
I look at a guy like him. I look at other situations around the league, and I go, there's some guys out there that I'd be interested in chucking an offer sheet in front of. Velarde's one of them. Is he a 1C, like a bona fide, not Jack Eichel, or, I'm not going to even go near kind of like Connor McDavid, like that status.
No.
Pantheon. But, is he that? No. Is he an upgrade to what you have? Yeah. I don't think your bona fide 1C is an ad this offseason, unless it's from you win the lottery and you get the first pick, you take a center and he develops into that. But I think that's more ticketed for the following offseason, not this one. I mean, look at the free agents this summer. This is where you got to be careful. I talked to Jonesy about this a number of times on the podcast. You got to be careful not to just go out and get the best available guy because you got some money. You got to be prudent now. I mean, the top center available this summer is going to be Tavares, who's still going to get paid. He gets paid $11 million. He's 34 and a half. I mean, he's going to be 35 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not going out there and doing it. You don't go out there just to get the best available. Sometimes you got to wait a little bit and time things to get the best one for your situation. And maybe that's not this summer. Maybe that's the summer after that. Doesn't mean you can't improve this summer. You still can. But you're not going to solve all problems. You're not going to settle all family business in one day like Michael Corleone did on the day of the baptism. Just not going to happen.
What about players like Barrett Hayton or just Barry Kotkaniemi? These are younger guys. It still could be. I mean, Hayton is starting to really impress. I don't know how feasible either one of them is. And Kotkaniemi might be somebody that was rushed and may never, ever really be what he could have been. It's hard to say.
Yeah. I look at him and I think that he was put under a microscope because of where he was drafted and then how things played out with that offer sheet and everything. I think it's been just a constant distraction for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's almost like it's never been about hockey. So I look at that with him and you go, okay, is that player and the promise of what he was drafted on, is it there and can we get it? Is that a risk worth taking? And where the Flyers are right now, yeah, I mean, maybe that is. But you also got to look at what the player wants to do. Does the player, want to commit to a 2 or 3 year deal at this point in his career? Probably not. Players love tenure.
Well, he's got 3 years left, right? So these are guys with terms. So we'd have to trade for them.
Yeah.
I that's the idea. That's what I'm thinking they're going to have.
I look at guys like that have a pedigree. Like he was drafted on a pedigree for a reason. And for whatever reason, it hasn't fully bloomed yet. And I look at that and I go, okay, well, let me look back at why it didn't bloom. Was it where he was, who he was playing with? Because you can look at that a lot of times in sports, with guys drafted all over in sports and go, God, if he was drafted by this team, he'd have been a star. Like in the NFL, you see it all the time. Yeah. You go, oh, he ends up with the Raiders. He can be ruined, right? But that's the way it is. And if Team X would have got him and that develops quarterbacks or, develops centers and puts them in a good culture situation and shields them from the pressures of being a pro at such a young age and expectation that they could have blossomed. You got to look at those things and see if they're still there. So you got to do a little CSI on why that player is where they were based on the promise of where they showed, to be drafted where they were.
With Kotkaniemi, you almost sit there and think that, okay, maybe he goes like Utah or so, Seattle, somewhere where he can kind of hide a little bit and just work on his game where the pressure's not going to be all them. I mean, Montreal, look at Montreal. They're that's a legacy up there. And look, and one of our shows this year was we found out we were in a feud with Montreal and we didn't even know about it. Based on that. So everybody forgot to tell us. So
nothing like a one-sided feud.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think when Demidov gets there, and I wish him luck. Yeah, I'd never root against some other young kid in some other town.
I don't want him to fail.
No. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't even root for Cutter to fail, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you want the best, because you know what, when and if you look at the bottom feeders right now, you got Boston down there, you got Pittsburgh down there, you got the Flyers down there. The league is better.
Chicago
as a whole, whole, the league is better when those teams are better.
Detroit's not a playoff team. I mean, look at the Rangers probably are not going to be a playoff team. I mean, you look at the standings right now, and a healthy NHL is better when Boston, the Rangers, the Flyers, the Penguins, Chicago, Detroit, these are cornerstone franchises.
It's the cap. It's a damn cap.
Yeah, it's this parity crap. It's
just if they had
and the flat cap.
If they had a either a more flexible cap or a luxury tax like they have in baseball,
amnesty buyout. Yeah. After a flat cap for 4 years would have been probably prudent, I would think.
Yep.
To have done.
It's killing the league.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news though. You always identify the problem, but sell the solution. Here we go.
Yes.
With the rising cap coming, the teams like Boston, the Rangers, the Flyers, the Penguins, not to a lesser degree, but Chicago and Detroit, these big markets that will have no problem selling out their building and will not be cash strapped. When this cap goes up, this rising cap and at the escalation it's going to go is scaring some of these small market teams.
Oh yeah,
I can tell you that the floor is like, that's the floor.
Yeah,
we got to be there. Our operations have to, in a league that's really ticket sale based revenue, those teams are going to be at a big disadvantage. Teams like the Flyers, we got plenty of dough. We'll go right to the cap.
And we got Ryan Ellis too to help solve the problem.
I was just going to bring that up. Now here's your question though: does he go to like somebody that needs to hit the floor, or do you sit there and go, "Oh, sugar, we need money for the offer sheet, so we long-term injured reserve."
No, I mean, I think at some point, once you get down to like a year left on that, you get a third-round pick for sending them somewhere. Yeah. Just sending the contract to help somebody out. I got to look at this contract too. I'm not sure how cash weighted it is, how it was front loaded. I mean, there's nothing those teams like more than taking on like a $7 million cap hit, but only owing $2 million of actual money. That's the win-win for some of those smaller market teams. So the Flyers will be in an advantageous position, and they're going all in. They're building a new building. I mean, they're going to put a new state-of-the-art building down there, whatever it is, 2030 or whatever, which is like 5 years away. It's not that far. You're doing that. You got to have something to put butts in those seats, and you got to have corporate sponsors up the wazoo. So you better have a big face on the marquee beyond just Michkov. Michkov will be one of them for sure, but beyond that.
Yeah, Ryan Ellis, next year he counts. His actual salary, if I'm reading this right from Puckpedia, is $5.5 million. Then the final year in 27, $4.5 million.
Yeah, so it's a little less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because his cap hit is 6.25. So
if they retain him beyond July 1st, maybe part of that is like $2.5 million of that is signing bonus. So it's actually only $2 million. That could be the situation too. I'm not sure how accurate all those are now without having what was the old salary
cap friendly.
Funny. What's funny? The Caps buy cap friendly. They shutter it. They hire those guys. They have the greatest offseason I've ever seen.
There you go.
Like, what do those two do? They're like menses, these two guys.
Yeah. It's incredible.
They signed 7 players. They went 7 for 7. Every player's worked out. They're a legit cup contender when I thought their window was closed.
It's money puck instead of money ball.
You know what helps?
They didn't even freaking they didn't go out there and get like a Connor McDavid or anything either. And you get Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Chikrin, some decent
but
players.
They were smart though. They got Dylan Strome, I thought was someone the Flyers could have picked up because he would have stabilized the center position. I mean, even when he was available, you could see there was trouble on the horizon. Pick this guy up and see what you get out of him because he was prime, big, tall, lanky kid.
There. Yeah, can skate.
Yeah.
We got the Strome that can't skate. We got Matthew.
Yeah.
You can't go from goal line to goal line without toe pick.
Great kid, too. It's a shame. So.
Yeah. It's amazing to me.
The thing about Washington,
some guys just can't skate.
Yeah,
well, we got the better Kate. We kept the better Kates though. So
Jack.
Yeah. But the thing with Washington, year after year after year in Hershey, they built that program. I know the Flyers are trying to get that thing together.
It was a 33rd NHL team.
Yeah,
the Hershey Bears. Wagon, absolutely.
You want to create a culture right there. And the other thing, and I think you and Bill were talking about this on the Flyers Daily. I think there's the next head coach. There is going to be more of a seamless transition going from AHL to NHL going forward, in terms of systems and things like that. Torts is kind of disdainful of that. I think going forward, though, that's probably going to be the new way they do business. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, too. I mean, I think Lappy with the Phantoms is amenable to doing whatever they want him to do. He knows that while his job is down there is to develop and create a culture and set players up to be pros. His job is to serve the master, which is the big club, right? And if you want that seamless transition, we're building a team to play a high transition offense. We want to run a 2-1-2 split forecheck in the offensive zone. We want to run a trapping 2-1-2 in the neutral. Whatever you want to do, you'd like to have those guys learning that at the AHL and developing through it right in and graduating to it at the NHL level without having to go from, not that they all don't know how to play different systems. They all do. They all play different systems at different times growing up. But I think sometimes maybe we overstate the system a little bit, but we overstate it when it doesn't work and we understate it when it does. Structure in hockey. I'm kind of the opposite of it. I love pointing out because I love CSI and goals. Like the finish of the goal. Okay, let's look at the 30 seconds before. Where did the goal what really happened to make this scoring chance happen? Sometimes you see it in the D zone. You see a winger that comes down and helps out his center, and that creates everything. You got nothing, no scoring chance without that little decision in the D zone or in the neutral zone or angling a guy or supporting, forcing a player to one side into the teeth of your structure. That's where the goal actually happens. That's where it starts. You got to be a finisher.
Yeah, look at Drysdale last night when Michkov fanned on that shot, and Drysdale was in perfect position because he had that mindset to attack, and he was right there.
Why did he go where he went? I look at why did he go where he went? Well, because he was standing there at the blue line. He's like, where'd everybody go? They just all sucked down to the net. Why did they do that? Well, because Michkov went to the middle again.
Yeah.
And when he goes to the middle, he commands all the attention of everybody. In the middle of the ice, he commands the attention of everybody. So they all kind of go, they shrink up. And Drysdale, I said on Flyers Daily today, I said, it was like that scene in Star Wars where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are having their lightsaber battle. All the stormtroopers are guarding the Millennium Falcon. They see it and they go, oh, let's go watch this. They all go over there to watch it. And Han Solo and Luke Skywalker are like, where'd they all go? Let's go on the ship now. So they all go run into the ship because they're all distracted. Well, Drysdale just came in and sat on the back door. And when Michkov kind of whiffed on the shot a little bit, he's just like, thank you. Deposit that home. That's a good read, right?
Yep.
Right.
But why did it happen? Because Michkov went to the middle, commanded all the attention. I think he's going to drive teams crazy because when he goes to the middle and he knows when to go to the middle, which I think is so key. Watch him next game on Saturday against Montreal. Do you ever see him look down at the puck on a stick? Never.
No.
Head
It's
is
incredible.
always up. Puck's in tight, and he's just surveying everything. The kid is not going to be a star. Sorry to burst people's bubble. He's going to be a fucking superstar for a couple of reasons. One, the skills are there. The instincts are there. Two, when he struggled this year at times, he still competed his butt off, which tells me a lot about him as a hockey player. And three, he loves the big moment.
Yes, he does.
Superstars are made on the biggest stage. When he plays against Ovechkin or Kucherov or Panarin or McDavid, he rises to it.
Yep.
Yeah. To me, that is a great trait. And I don't know if the Flyers and Danny, they got that vibe from him in their meetings pre-draft before they got him at 7. I don't know if they could with the language, but it's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
I have less doubt about that prediction than any other one that I've made. And I might nail his point number on the year. I think I said he would have 64 on the season.
Very close.
Right there, knocking on the door.
Yeah, you are. Now, is it enough? Because I did put some money down on him to win the Calder. Has he got enough to win the Calder, or is it going to be Hudson?
I don't even give it to him. Yeah, honestly, I don't care about it either. Like some
I
people get so caught up in that. Yeah, well, you got the chips.
For fun.
Chuck them in. You go boom. Let me throw some chips in there, right?
Yeah.
I always have poker chips in because I fiddle a lot. Yeah, I mean he's certainly in the mix with Celebrini, Hudson, and Wolf. Like I never got caught up in like Joel Embiid's MVP season. Like I'm not going to go down and put my lawn chairs out and save a spot for the parade route for an MVP. Like to me, sports is about winning as a team, But I mean, look, it'd be great. No Flyers ever won it. He's got a chance. To me, he's been incredibly dynamic, and the way he's finishing now too is great. Is tremendous. How he came out of 4 Nations, where I think in 7 games he had 11 points then too.
Yeah, it's like battery recharged.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's here this early and learning, he's going to know this offseason how to prepare for an NHL season and get more, ingrained in the culture here. Look out, man. He is Nikita Kucherov with a little bit of more attacking in the middle than Kucherov does. A very similar play. I think they're going to put up very similar totals. He will have 100 assist season in the NHL.
Oh, wow.
And a couple that with about 43 goals at that time too. Yeah. It's getting the right pieces around him.
That's the main thing. If there's anything that's really kind of unsettled as well, it's with the goaltending. And we were speculating upon some choices. I know you were talking about some goalies that the Flyers might want to come back with. Anthony DeMarco had a piece today in the Daily Faceoff, and
disagree with you.
What's that?
I saw the piece and I disagree with it.
Yeah, I disagree with him too. I told him, hey, Anthony, it's a really good piece. I don't agree about the goaltending. I just don't think they can come back with what they have. I don't think Fedotov is an NHL goalie. Maybe he just needed AHL time to get more acclimated. He's maybe too old for that. And Kolosov clearly is not an NHL goalie. And then there's this whole, I don't know. It's not Kevin Kurz put out something about the Russians really frown upon having their players in the AHL because they think they're too good for that. And it's
because they think the KHL is the second best league in the world. So that's what they should develop. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go by how he played in the KHL versus what he did here and in the AHL for that matter, I don't, just for one player sample, no, not the case. I mean, he's clearly not an NHL goalie, and he lost really like 3/4 of a year of development.
Yeah. With his 3 goalies shit and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And not playing, sitting on the side at practice. Some people go, 3 goalies is a great idea. Yeah, baloney. That's a horrible, hideous idea, 3 goalies. I disagree with Anthony because I don't think if you want to move the team forward next year, which I think is what they want to do, basing us on what they said, because I think you're at a tipping point of too much scar tissue from too much losing. There's a tipping point to it where it becomes, okay, guys like Konechny and Couturier, I get one career here. Like, I don't want to spend it just continually losing. I'm already 6-8 years in. Let's either like shit or get off the pot and like move forward. I can't go through another year of this. So I think you get to a point where if you're going to put players through it again, then there's scar tissue and they have to just accept it. And that is an infection. It's hard to get rid of, accepting being inferior and losing as a competitor. So if you're going to move forward, The best way to tank in this league is simple. Inferior goaltending. It'll undo any team. It just will. Believe me. I've been the inferior goalie in undone teams. When the goalie's not good, you can't play in front of them the way you're supposed to play to be successful. It's just part of the reality. They're part and parcel with each other, and the goalie's a product of the system, and the goalie can also sink the system by not being consistent or reliable. I don't think they can go in next year with any of this tandem. I think Ersson you come back with. As far as Fedotov goes, I think he's beyond his development window. He's going to be 29. I think there's an expiration date to development years. You can't redevelop at 29. And it's a shame. I don't know if he could have got over here at 24, 25, what he could have been. I don't know. We'll never know. Kolosov, I'm not ready to throw him into the ocean. There's times when I look at him, I go, that's an NHL goalie. Look at the way he moves. But there's also, there's also times when I go, you can't give up that goal. Like, what are you doing? They're way too casual sometimes in situations of giving up goals in this. But he hasn't been here a long time. He needs more time to adjust, but I'd like to see him do that in the AHL next year with Carson Bjarnason. And bring in some kind of veteran that at least gives you league average goaltending that you can rely on, along with Ersson, and the usage of the two of them can put you more in that league average center. Then you got a chance to push for the playoffs. You got league average goaltending last year, all year, and Hart doesn't go, they're probably a playoff team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No doubt. When Hart left, it did change a lot. There's no doubt about it. And it did throw things, putting players above their pay grade before they're ready to get there is not a good recipe in sports. It's not. And that position in particular can be scarring. I don't know that Sam can't be a number one, but I do know right now he hasn't shown me enough consistency for me to stake the claim that he is. He can go on those runs of 12, 15 games, but being a starter in the NHL is about 55 games, 52, 55, maybe 58. So I think you got to find somebody to bring in here, whether that's, you look at a Jake Allen or somebody that emailed me yesterday about trading for Jordan Binnington, who's got 2 years left at $6 million. Mm-hmm. I hate Binnington. I'm not a fan of that faux tough guy thing that he kind of has going, but maybe I could learn to like him. I don't know. I still think he's got some game. I don't know that St. Louis is looking to deal him. I look at a guy like Gibson out with Anaheim. They want a huge haul for him. I don't want to give up a first-round pick for a guy that I don't know if he's going to be healthy, and has 2 years left at 6.4. So, and the goalie free agency market's pretty hideous as well. So you're going to have to do it maybe
I'm
trade.
looking at it now.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably going to have to do it via trade. So I think that they got to solidify that. I think Danny will do something in that regard. Not long term, because you do have some guys coming in, Bjarnason and Zavragin, and we'll see if they get there and they develop. That's voodoo. It's hard to tell if a guy will or not, but I think you got to solidify it to at least league average for next year to have a fighting chance at league average. Because this year, I mean, you're looking at 80 team save percentage. It's absurd.
And it's just like the center position, or probably even more vital to their, whether they're going to be successful or not. If you can get a bridge player, hopefully one of Bjarnason or Zavragin could be something.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think you hit on, when it comes to goaltending, and this will be weird for Flyer fans, you hit on goaltending about 15 to 20% of the ones you get. So you should draft, I think you should draft 1.2 goaltenders every draft, basically is what I'm saying. And one of those guys will work out. Will he be a franchise bell cow, Connor Hellebuyck? No, but legit NHL guy. And some guys won't be when you have them and haven't shown that they will be, and then maybe become a little bit of that, like a guy like Stolars, who I don't know that he's a bona fide starter and can handle 55 games, but he's clearly, I mean, he stuck my foot in my mouth. I didn't think he would even be an NHL goalie. Yeah. I was very harsh on him. He didn't like it. And I had to mea culpa him, but he's legit now. Like, he's a good goalie. Some goalies aren't going to develop until they're 28. Look at Tim Thomas. Like,
I mean, there's always the exception.
Yeah.
Just a name I wanted to bring up before Schiffer, I get to you. And Russ Cohen was talking about a guy named Connor Hazley, 24. He's a super senior at Bentley University. And they were part of the Frozen Four tournament. They lost to BC, I guess. He had 923 percentage, 1.95 goals against average in HCA or is it
ACHA.
ACHA? Right,
Yeah.
hockey.
Yeah,
But apparently,
actually, a kid that I coached actually was his goaltending tandem partner a couple of years ago, Jason Grande, who's now playing over there. I'll have to ask Jason about him. He's been there for 3 years now at Bentley. That was, I guess, before that, he's a little older because a lot of those guys will go and play junior, and he played in the NHL, which Jason did as well, for Odessa, and then he went to Cedar Rapids and played the USHL, worked his way to D1. A lot of guys, like just the super players, like Quinn Hughes, go from 18 years old, true freshman, and playing in the NCAA. A lot of those guys are like 20, 21 by the time they get to play at a D1 school. Same thing for Hazley. Yeah, I'll have to dig in on him a little bit because I'll ask Rusk about him as well. Russ is a prospect guy. He follows it much closer than I do. But yeah, I'll have to look at him and see what the deal is. Yeah, he played with that kid I coached, Jason Grande from Westchester Ruston High School. I coached his brother as well, Michael.
Wow.
Brother wasn't a goalie, but it was a D. But yeah, Jason's doing a great job.
I guess about 6 years ago, you did a show with us, and it's one of my favorites. Is when we were talking about all the goalies that were going to come out of the Met. And how, wow, Carter Hart. Yeah, that was a great.
Shesterkin, Mackenzie Blackwood.
Gorgiev.
Yeah.
Who else?
The only team that didn't have one.
Right?
Yeah, the only team that didn't have one. Well, they had Jari, who we were lukewarm on, but Carolina was the team that didn't have one, right?
Yep. Yeah.
We're like, Carolina didn't have the next great goalie. But they've been kind of the top of the standings ever since. Yeah, Samsonov was in there too, and yeah, I remember that episode. It was like, then the goalie intending in this 7 of the 8 teams in the division is going to be off the hook.
I know. We thought, oh wow, this is going to be a fun battle. It's funny. I don't. There's probably 1 or 2 left, but it's ironic.
Are really good.
Yeah,
Sturkin and Sorokin are really good.
Yeah, and it's ironic that a couple of them are actually free agents next season too. So
well, Blackwood, I mean, has turned it around and signed a big deal, and he's in a good situation now. It took him a little time. I thought it would take him a little longer because he's so big.
Yeah,
like he's a freak, like big, like not lanky, like just doesn't look like a goalie out of equipment.
Thick.
Yeah, like a football player. He looks more like a football player than he does a goalie to me.
Linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, you see guys like Marc-Andre Fleury or like even. Like I remember back in the Ryan Miller days, you see him off the ice. Like, oh my God, dude, mix in a potato. Like he was so gaunt. He looked like the crypt keeper. Like, well, come on, dude. Like get a couple of Hershey bars in you or something.
Yeah.
But goaltending's hard to predict, man. You see the best goalie in the league, Hellebuck, right now, and a lot of people weren't sure, the trajectory of his career, but. He's worked his bag off to be where he is, and he's got the right head, good situation there. And damn, is he good?
Yep.
I watch him play all day. Goalie porn.
Yeah, he's terrific. So
goalie porn.
Yeah, best. Like Carey Price was sheer goalie porn. Like the aesthetically pleasing way in which he played and moved. You'd watch him like move on like a lateral play, and you're like, oh my God, like. How efficient was that? Like head, shoulders, hips, everything turned perfect. There, made the save like he was nothing. You're like, you kidding me? Yeah.
Well, like Hasek, and you couldn't stand him because you couldn't figure out the hell he was doing.
I couldn't relate to it. Like, what was it? Like, okay, I'm going to players coming down, cross ice pass. I'm going to throw a barrel roll. Why? I don't know. It worked.
Let's bring up like Mark LaForest.
Yeah, I saw he passed away.
We just got the word.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He had one of the coolest I remember as a kid, and we're the same age. He had one of the coolest masks with the orange trees on it. It was
tree branches
so
everywhere.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the early days of painting the mask and goaltenders expressing a little bit of their creativity with it. Yeah, his was awesome. I mean, first of all, with the name like LaForest to have that. I mean, what a great nickname, Trees.
Yeah.
So I hear that one. But yeah, I never got to know him or got to deal with him in any way. But what I do know is 62 is way too damn young.
Yeah.
So Flyers alumni and played for the Leafs for a bit, a few other teams. And goalie union, lost a guy way too young. So I hate to see that.
Yeah. He played for the Flyers in the late '80s. Played about 37 games or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
You
really
really
fair.
remember a guy more than he actually played sometimes.
Yeah. 'cause-
Yeah, that
and I
was a
think it's
backup,
because
but-
it was the mask. I think because you thought that was so cool because that was right at the beginning when they were starting to get wacky cool and all that. So
Yeah, people were starting
Yeah,
to paint
Gilles
him up.
Craton. Whatever, he was from the 70s, but I remember his mask was kind of crazy, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean in the 70s, you had some guys starting to get creative, whether it was, the stitches on the mask, or I thought when Wayne Stevenson went with the Flyer logos on the regular style mask was awesome. And then you'd see, some of the other masks around the league, the bear mask, the Bruins bear mask was awesome. And then you couple that into the mask cage combo, and what they can do now is just incredible.
yeah.
What the paint jobs they got on these masks, how 3-dimensional they are and stuff.
Who was it? Who was it? The Sharks goalie that had the one with it wasn't Urbe, huh?
With the teeth on it?
Yeah, where it was an open shark. Was it?
Is it
the
Nabokov?
Oh, that's it. Yep. That's who it is. Yep.
We have
Evgeny.
Yeah, I thought I had a Nabokov here. I have a shark mask, but it's not that one. It's that. That's a Nabokov as well.
Yeah.
Mini.
Wow.
Not the greatest one. One of the greatest ones, though, is this. Circa 2000, Nikolai Hobby-Bulin, the Bulin Wall is what it says on the chin piece.
Yeah.
Bulin Wall. And like the Pink Floyd wall thing all over it with the creature's claw. Awesome mask.
That was one of my mom's favorite goalies. My mom's favorite.
It was great.
She just liked saying his name. She's like, "Oh, I can't wait for the Flyers to play him." Oh yeah,
Absolute beauty, Patty. One of the great ones. I have a Patty Colorado one up there as well, and this one never changed it. Marty changed it once, where he changed this top part at one point, but it's a great mask.
Yeah. For those who can't see this, which is probably everybody because we're an audio podcast, Jason's going through his collection of masks.
I like that one too.
Ricky's Statue of Liberty 94 mask, and then one of the more bizarre ones is actually this. John Van Beesbrook always had that kind of bizarre shaped mask and flat paint job and a regular, not a cat cage.
He was great, but by the time we got him, and we could have had Cujo or maybe even Richter, it's always left you a bad taste in his mouth. Because one of the few times the Flyers went budget when they really had, they spent a little more money, they could make a difference.
Yeah, and Van Beesbrook was great over his career. I mean, right guy, wrong time again,
Right. Yeah. So, Jay, why don't we talk about some of these kids that are going to be down with the Phantoms? Like Lachenko has already played a couple games with the Phantoms, and Alex Bump, if his team is bumped out of the Frozen Four, he's going to be there. And Alex Chernak and Ty Murchison.
And Kurbenkin too is flashed a little bit.
Yeah, Kurbenkin looks like a really promising player.
I can't wait for rookie camp. I guess it'll be in rookie camp. Maybe he'll be at development camp as well, I would imagine. I can't wait to talk to that guy, right? Like he's
he's a character.
He seems like a party.
Forecheck, paycheck.
Yeah, forecheck, back check, paycheck.
That's it. Yeah.
He seems like a real beauty. So I can't wait to meet some of these guys. And Lachenko, obviously, I met last year and spent a good deal of time with leading up to this season and in the beginning of the season. Lachenko is going to be one of those guys that is just going to be a better NHL player than he is at any other level. Because he's got a really mature game and he's got a really detailed game. And that's what the NHL is. Like, there's a lot of guys that can skate like guys that are on the Flyers or in the NHL right now, and they can shoot like them, but they just can't put it all together, right? And play with structure and intuition and on instinct. That's what separates the NHL players. I just think Lachenko is built to be a better NHL player than he's going to be at any other level.
Yeah.
There's just so much maturity. Like, I'm blown away by how young he was, obviously, when he was drafted. But the way he played on the ice, I was like, wow, it's so mature, and then the way he carried himself off it was even more mature. I'm like, you're like 4 months older than my son. Like, no way, I mean, when I asked him too, I'm like, when did this whole fitness thing become a big deal to you? And he said, during the pandemic. He said, all my buddies that I played hockey with were all like farting around playing an Xbox. And he's like, I asked my dad to build a gym in the garage, and he did, and I got to work. I'm like, man, at 14, like 15 years old, you knew to do that? Like, that tells you.
That's a self-starter.
Like, he's like Rod Brindamore trainer, like type.
Yeah.
type shit.
Yeah.
Crazy.
How close was he? I mean, this actually staying with the team. I mean,
I don't think it was very.
Wasn't even close, right?
No.
Good. Because
I think
people
give him the taste
the
and see what it feels like. But I didn't, based on where they knew they were going to go this year, which was more subtraction, and I didn't think you want to put stain on them.
No,
and have them go through that.
Not.
I don't think that made sense. So
that's one, like the offensive game. I'm just worried they're not giving them enough time to get that together, and yet the AHL is not an option because he's too young.
Yeah,
so
it's a stupid rule. The rule is ridiculous, by the way.
I know, and they don't want.
All it does is hurt players and their development because the CHL is so greedy in their history. So, which is why you see so many more players going to college now too, and why NCAA Division I is producing more top talent than ever
blowing up
before.
Blowing up.
Penn State, by the way, getting the Frozen Four. Good on them.
Mm-hmm.
Guy Godowski, former coach of Princeton. Guy I covered. I used to do games for Princeton, and I know Guy, awesome. I was going to say he's an awesome guy, but great coach and done a great job building that program. Where of course I went to school, along with Joe Batista there. So very happy to see that, and it could, from what I'm told, it could lead to Flyers Penguins in a stadium series at Beaver Stadium at some point.
Nice.
Yeah. I've heard similar things.
That.
In fact, I just retweeted something by your buddy Russ. So
yeah, I saw Russ report that as well. I know it's been in conversations for many years, and going back to when Peter Luco's son was playing at Vermont, he was always trying to get a game up there. It just didn't work out. A lot of greed involved, but it just makes too much sense.
Yeah.
The Flyers to play the Penguins in Happy Valley.
In the middle of the state. You got to love it.
Yeah,
smack
absolutely.
in the middle and right in downtown State College.
We're going to see this guy, Carson Dort. What do you know about him? Anything?
I don't. I'm not a prospect guy, so I never pretend to be. I just know what I've read and talked to a few people about him. Projected if he's an NHL player, bottom 6 guy. So we'll see. You never know. A guy could, blossom a little bit later. But I'm not expecting anything, substantial. Certainly not out of the gate. And we'll see, how he kind of fits in moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, they need depth at the position, if not NHL depth, even AHL depth. They don't really have guys. They called up Obels, and it's been okay, but he's really kind of like a tweener.
He's carrying a refrigerator up the ice a lot of times, but yeah.
Yeah, boy, yeah. What was that old joke? A bit, but late in his career, Vinny Lecavalier, he had the turning radius of a Greyhound bus, and I always think of that when I see Obels. Yeah, and it's like nothing against the guy, but he just,
I'll give you a little back, kind of peek behind the curtain. As broadcasters, we meet with the coaches before the games a lot of times, just to talk about some things, lineup decisions, what you're looking for the other team, because there's stuff to talk about, and we get off the record stuff for, not to use, but to have context. I remember one time Torts was in there when Hayes was still here, and we were talking about it, and I brought up something about Hayes would always curl to the outside in the D zone. It used to drive me crazy as a coach. Like, why are you curling to the outside? And George goes, Jesus Christ, this fucking Hazy turns like an aircraft carrier on the ice. He's not a tight turn guy. He goes, he turns like an aircraft carrier, and I just lost it. Yeah, he does. And in the wrong way. Never curl to the outside in the D zone. We curl in the middle.
I know. Well, he's a nice guy. Seems like a life of the party.
Great guy. I love Hazy, but yeah, he's got some habits.
I mean,
he's got some habits that drive coach nuts.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So, so we're going to see Carson Dort at some time. We'll see what he is. So, what are you concerned about the Flyers winning 3 games and after getting themselves in the position to maybe get a top 4 guy, or now they're down to 7 and depending on you don't worry about any of that?
No, I mean, the water finds its level. You're going to finish where you finish. I remember when Chicago won the lottery to get Bedard, they ended up winning some games in the last week of the season over Pittsburgh, which set off a whole chain of events, and got Hextall fired, and Dubas by proxy, it got Dubas fired in Toronto because of the matchup, and they lost in the first round again, and Dubas sent to Pittsburgh, but they ended up winning the lottery anyway. So look, I mean, these things are all, happenstance and where you finish. Do you want to have the higher percentage? Sure. But would you rather Michkov be struggling down the stretch?
Nope.
Because he's the reason why they're winning right now.
Yep.
Like, let's be honest. And a lot of the people that are complaining about them winning are the people that celebrate Michkov and Michkov alone, not any Flyers success, but Michkov's success. And there's a whole army of these people out there that for my money, they're not Flyer fans, they're Michkov fans. Because he can do no wrong. And he's been great. But would you rather him suck out loud, turn over pucks, and make bad plays to cause you to lose games right now? Or would you rather him be piling up some points and feeling great about getting himself in this Calder thing? It's exactly. To me, it's a contradiction. And I don't ever believe in accepting losing. So you go out, you play hard. Look, they're going to lose some more games. They're a depleted team. The air was let out of the balloon when Torts left, and everybody's playing free-spirited right now. That only lasts for so long. You are what you are in sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to get shit kicked a couple times here down the stretch, and every team in the league except for the Devils has games in hand on them. So we'll see where they finish and where they end up drafting, and make the right decision wherever you draft, and develop that player. And I can't sit here and play this game of I'm going to try and lose more than the other guy. Because I guarantee the other teams aren't trying to do that either. So I'm fine with it.
I think I'm from the mindset where you got to play. You play to win every game.
Yeah.
Because once you start getting that mindset into you, it's like a disease. You can't get rid of it, and it doesn't stay with you. It spreads to everybody else too.
Yeah, you accept losing, you're a loser. Congrats.
Yeah, that's Buffalo and Detroit for a while. It's a shame that they get past it, and Ottawa's just struggle to even do what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like a mechanic when he gets home from the garage all day. You don't just wash your hand once with a Dove bar to get all that crap off your hands. You got to get in there with the lava soap and scrub the hell out of it. To get that all. You can't wash losing off your hands with a bar of Dove. Accepting it, you can't do it. And I got news for you. Any competitor, they like winning. Competitors like winning, but they don't like winning more than they hate losing. Like going home when you lose is awful. Going back into that room. Yeah. And believe me, I, as a guy who played a very consequential position in the sport for a long time, you got to own it too. I mean, there's a lot of times I'd never had a problem owning it. I would walk into the room and say, whether it was growing up and playing high level, what would be considered tier 1 hockey now, and playing on really good teams, or playing in beer league. You walk in that locker room when you suck and just say, look, you guys could have scored 10 tonight. I'd have given up 11. I sucked. It's on me. You got to take ownership of it. And you don't want to take ownership of it because you don't want it to happen. I liked winning to a degree. Never gave me the same visceral feeling as losing did, which was horrible for me.
Right. Well, that describes the Flyers Cup teams. They got to that point where losing was the biggest fear. It's like that's the worst feeling in the world, rather than the joy of winning.
Kills you. The joy of winning is like, okay, I did my job, good. Pat on the back, move on to the next one. Let's try and get another one, right? Losing is, holy cow, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it's not what you're there for.
Your mind and body, yeah.
Last question. How much rehab work does Cam York, if any, have to do in terms of his standing with the organization? Is it one of those things, or there's some shit that went down and there needs to be some repair and some discussion in the off season?
It definitely needs to be some discussion because from what we're hearing, both guys went over the line, and Cam's an aloof guy. He's a very confident guy. And he's not a guy that is incredibly outspoken. I think there has to be some conversations there. I really do. I mean, I thought last year, the season prior to this one, I thought he was the best single player storyline of the entire year. And this year, things kind of went sideways for him a little bit with getting injured, and that kind of stuff has affected his year, I think, a lot. So I think we have to look at this year as hopefully being the outlier for what he can become. I still believe that he can be a top 4, certainly, defenseman in the league that can play a lot of minutes because he can economize energy. I think he's great off the rush because his skating ability is so balanced, and so much of the game is off the rush defending now. So I believe in his game. But, in Philadelphia, I don't know what it's like in other cities. I don't live there, so I don't care. But what I know it's like here is we fall in love really fast, and we like to tear a guy down really fast.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. You know, Fedotov came in and played a couple games. Well, we should trade Ersson. Or Ersson came in last year and played a couple. They should trade Hart. He's no good. Like, sports is about sample size. Yep. And, you know, York is still very young in this league for a defenseman. You know, you saw Jamie Drysdale come in and struggle immediately. Oh, he sucks. You got to stop making up our minds so quick. We got to be. I always try and remove the emotion, as you guys know, the emotion of fandom, to not react just based on what's right in front of me, and look at everything, and look at why a guy is struggling, or why a goal was given up, or why it was a bad goal, whatever that is, and look at those things to make a rational evaluation on what a guy is. I'm not ready to give up on Cam York. I'm not trading him to trade him. No way. People go, "Oh, he wants $7 million." So do I. Yeah. Am I getting it? Who doesn't want $7 million? Like, no shit.
I want $7 million. I mean, if anybody cares, I want $7 million too. You too,
right? Reported that. Like, he asked for $7 million. Like, these are just like stories that get out there, that get made up, that people just start riding with as truths. And I always say, information gets out when it does get out for a reason. It's got an agenda. There's a reason why it's getting out, whether it's from the agent, the player, a team source, whatever it is. It's got an agenda. So consider an agenda attached to any information that you get that is credibly reported, because it does. It's got an agenda. They don't just put it out there for hey, I'll take 5.4, which is probably under market value in a rising cap league. They're not going to put that out there. It's got an agenda. So, but yeah, I think there's some serious conversations that have to take place at the end of the year. There's got to be some repairing done. The fact that he was benched in Bradshaw's first game for the entirety of it, I had to sit there on the bench because they didn't have a guy to just plug in for him, was very telling to me, that the organization took his part in whatever took place very seriously. And I applaud him for that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something very significant that went down, what said or done, and I'm done speculating.
I've corresponded with Torts, since it went down, but we didn't talk about that. I mean, you guys know how fond of him I am.
Yeah.
And what he's meant during my battle here, and how he's helped me along the way. So we didn't talk about that, and we texted back and forth, and. Basically it came down to, basically him saying, you got mine, I got yours. Let's stay in touch, because we share a lot of common beliefs and core values and those kind of things. So kind of is what it is at this point.
Well, that's not a bad guy to have in your foxhole. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah. He was exactly what I needed for the role he's played in it for me, because he wasn't going to let me just sit there and feel sorry for myself and tuck tail and hide. He knows how I'm wired and how my makeup is, and so he's like, I'm gonna push you, and like he would. You got treatment tomorrow, right? And he'll text me, and I'd be like, yeah, and he'd be like, all right, well, go in there, don't fuck it up. Don't go in there and fuck up the treatment tomorrow. Go in there and get after it. Oh, good luck. Like that. Yeah. He knew that was not going to be the way for me, to push me. That I could be pushed.
Right. So, right.
And frankly, I get a lot of that. Oh, you got this, all that shit,
Yeah,
I hear that a lot. I don't know what I got moment to moment, I don't know how it's all going to play out. I'm optimistic, but, everybody telling you, oh yeah, you got this. Yeah. Well, some days I feel like I really ain't got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get it. Like, I don't want to go back and, I just went through a week of feeling like death, felt good for 5 days. Now I go back and start all over again. It's going to be worse the next time. Right. Yeah. Like some days, I don't want to hear, you got this, or they cancer mess with the wrong guy. I don't look at it that way. I just got to keep my head down and try and win every fight I can, win every round I can. And that's how I'm approaching it. So 6 chemo treatments down, 2 to go in phase 1. We'll move on to phase 2 after that, get some scans. And what I do know is that I don't have a single pre-diagnosis symptom now. Really started after 2 chemo treatments. I don't have a single symptom that I had pre-diagnosis now. So it's done something. Good. Because there's things that I can do now, and I won't get graphic with it.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to hear that I was not capable of for many months, for about a year. And that's a good thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
One step at a time. I mean, I had something don't want to get deep into it. They found something that was in that category and they took it out and they never found anything. They've been checking me since 2010.
Yeah.
I got to get scoped and scanned, whatever, every year. So, but thank God it never got to that point.
Yeah. I mean, mine got to the point it got because I denied it. Like, I'm not afraid to say it anymore. Like, I think people need to know. I think a lot of people are in denial about what their body's telling them. And I was. And I am lucky as they get. People go, how can you lucky? You have stage 3B colorectal cancer. How are you lucky? I go, because when they stage you in 3 categories.
Yeah.
3B is based on basically the size of the tumor and where it's located. Then I have L2, which is because of the proximity it is to lymph nodes. And then the third stage is M, and which stands for metastasis. I'm M0.
Good.
And I denied what was happening with my body for a long time, and I suffered for it. I should have been in there sooner. And the only reason I got in there when I did, too, is because I ended up in the ER. But I'm lucky. So I tell people I denied it. Listen to your body. If something's wrong, get to your doctor. Tell them. Don't be afraid about being graphic or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Listen to your body. It is telling you. Mine was screaming at me with a neon sign, and I was in denial. And thank God I still got it before, it spread to my lungs or more lymph nodes or whatever it might be. Because I got a fighting chance. So, so I'm looking at it.
You got it. With you all the way, brother. One day at a time. So,
and I mean, the sport's been humbling.
That's awesome.
From guys like, people that everybody knows like Torts or Eddie O has been an incredible resource for me. The hockey community in general, people that I know and don't know. I got a note from a guy the other day. I posted an email saying, I'm like well before 45, but because, I have history in my family, I went and got a colonoscopy at 38 and they found 3 huge polyps that were all precancerous. Like I went and did that because, you told your story and that's what I'm hoping to do. So get people to do that are at risk. And he did. Like I was blown away, but I've gotten like a dozen of those. Like, that's mind blowing to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a doctor. I used to sell gastro market. I was in pharma. We used to sell a proton pump inhibitor. And I was with the gastro. We were just casually talking. He says, God, if I could just get more people at the age 40, everybody could go in and get that scan. We would save so many people, avoid so much aggravation. And then a couple of years later, I said, well, I don't have any symptoms or anything, but I'm just going because I remembered what in my mind and like, and just
it's crazy. And it's important for people just to get checked and stay ahead of it because like it is preventable. And the reason why I do the podcast on camera and I talk about it and everything is because and I detail how hard this is. Like going through chemo treatment is freaking tough, man. And they're being aggressive with mine. They're kicking my ass every time. And I talk about it because you can avoid that. It can be just a polyp removed before you don't have to go through what I'm going through. I had to find a way to give this whole thing purpose, or otherwise I'd have just crawled into a hole and been resentful of going, I try and live a good life and eat good and all that stuff. And why me? But that didn't do anything. It doesn't do any good. So I figured let's be open and public about it and try and help some people. And I knew that people would help me. And that seems to be the case. I had a call today with Penn Medicine and I'm working on a really big awareness campaign with them to tell my story, and the Flyers and Flyers charities. We're doing some stuff as well. So it's definitely profoundly changed me already. Crazy. Yeah. It's only been months, so it's been a wild ride and not one I was looking to get on, but it's the one I got, so might as well do something with it.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Carry on, man. So I mean, I think we're gonna wrap it there. So you're going through a good phase, and you're doing until the next treatment. So we're gonna see Flyers daily, the podcast whenever you're up to that, and occasionally you get a pinch hit from Brian Smith, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's been great too. Like Smitty's really stepped in for me in some tough travel situations at times where, I mean, I'll be all day. I'm good to go. And then, it's not day to day with me. It's minute to minute sometimes. Yeah. Like you don't know when fatigue's going to hit. And you're down and there's nothing you can do, or you just all of a sudden feel like crap and you can't do it. So yeah, he stepped in for me. He's been huge for because I have so much respect for the audience. I want that to be there for him. And sometimes like I don't want to do it and I just have to grin it and get through it. But because I refuse to surrender to this whole thing as well. So yeah, my next treatment's not till the 10th of April, and then the last one will be on the 24th. I'm going to try and get to the last game of the season. I haven't been to a game since I've been diagnosed, so I'm going to try and get to the home closer of the year, because I don't want to end the season like I'm going back to like when I was an athlete. I never wanted to end it on the sideline. Like I want to walk off the ice. I don't want to, just have a season end. So I just want to get down there for that, and we'll see if I'm able to get there on the 15th. It'll be tenuous coming 5 days after a treatment, but we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Flyers Daily will be there every day, whether it's me or Smitty, and keep pumping it out. We'll have some good interviews and taping some stuff tomorrow with Nick Seeler and Jamie Drysdale and I think Brad Shaw. So yeah, look for that coming up this week as well.
Yeah, super. So, Chef, any last words before we wrap?
That's it.
Don't fuck it up.
Yep, don't fuck it up. That's it. Kill it. Just fucking keep at it and don't let go.
No doubt.
Yeah. So you can follow us on our podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn. It helps us out. If you would give us a follow, give us a like, whatever applies to your platform. Check us out on socials at O&B Puck, at O&B Puck, on X and Blue Sky, and also at O&B Puckcast on Getter. Anyway, that's it for tonight. We're going to be back on the 14th. I'm going to be busy next week. We're going to have a prospect show with our buddy Steve Corniano, so we're looking forward to that. Until next time, everybody, take care.